Sometimes the smallest disputes reveal the biggest truths about responsibility, honesty, and the price of broken trust. Inside Judge Judy's courtroom, where no excuse escapes scrutiny, one young mother, two former friends, and a tangled web of rent, childcare, and pride collide in a battle over just $1,440. But the real judgment goes far deeper than money. It was an ordinary morning in Judge Judy Sheindlin's courtroom. Bright lights, polished wood panels, and the calm yet electric tension that fills the air whenever two sides of a story are about to clash. The plaintiff, Miss Brianna Clark, stood at the left podium with her hands nervously clasped together. She was a young mother, determined yet visibly uneasy. Across from her stood two men, Montana Hull and his friend Mr. Perez, the defendants. They seemed calm but defensive, aware that every word they spoke would be dissected by the woman sitting high on the bench, the sharp-eyed, 60-year-old Judge Judy Sheindlin, whose name alone could make anyone sit up straight. Judge Judy began with her signature authority. "Miss Clark," she said, voice firm but even, "according to your complaint, you've known both of the defendants for quite a long time." Brianna nodded quickly, confirming that she, the two men, and her young daughter had all decided to rent an apartment together earlier that year. The arrangement was supposed to be simple: 3 adults sharing rent, each name on the lease, trying to build a comfortable home. But as Judge Judy would soon uncover, nothing about this shared living situation had remained simple for long. She pressed on with precision. "You moved into the apartment and signed the lease with the defendants when?" Brianna answered softly, "March 8th, 2014. Judy leaned forward slightly, eyes narrowing behind her glasses. "And in the month of March, who was taking care of your daughter?" There was hesitation. Brianna fumbled her words, tried to look toward the defendants, but Judy immediately cut her off. "Don't look over there," she warned sharply. "In the month of March, who was taking care of your daughter when you were working?" The courtroom was silent for a moment. Then Brianna answered carefully. 60% of the time, my parents watched her, and the rest of the time, Montana." Judge Judy's eyebrow lifted. 40%. "Montana?" The young man spoke up. "I'm Montana." Judy turned to him. "And in February of 2014, who took care of her?" Brianna repeated the same answer. 60% parents, 40% Montana. But the numbers didn't sit right with the judge. "How do you get to 60%? She challenged. "You work 3 days a week, correct? So how many days a week was the defendant taking care of your daughter?" Brianna's explanation was vague. She said it varied, that sometimes her parents watched the child, sometimes Montana did. Judge Judy didn't seem convinced. Montana then jumped in, claiming that he and his roommate had actually taken care of the little girl, most of the time. "If there was ever a problem," he said, "and we couldn't, that's when she went to her. Grandparents." The room grew tense as the unspoken disagreement about who had truly been responsible for the child hung in the air. Judy finally summarized the heart of the dispute. "This lawsuit," she said, "is about what happened after you all moved in together. The defendants left. They say they left because your boyfriend was hanging around the house all the time. Mr. Hull says he felt like he was parenting your daughter while you worked. But your boyfriend, who isn't the child's father, was there all day doing nothing. He didn't like that, so they left." Judy paused, then added, "That's not a healthy situation. So somebody had to leave, and they left. What you want from them?" She looked at Brianna directly. "Is there rent?" Brianna nodded. "Yes." The defendants told a different story. They insisted that there had been an informal agreement. Since they were helping take care of Brianna's daughter, that time and effort would offset part of their rent. Judy, unimpressed, pressed for details. "When you moved in, where were you working, Mr. Hull?" "I was unemployed," he admitted. "And Mr. Perez?" "Also unemployed." Judy's tone was sharp now. "So neither of you were working. How were you supporting yourselves? Montana tried to explain that they were in the process of starting a business, slowly building clients. Sometimes they had work, sometimes not. Brianna knew about their situation before moving in. Judy leaned back slightly, piecing it together. So, since they were home trying to start a business, they were also taking care of your daughter while you worked? Brianna hesitated. No. I mean, yes, sort of. Things changed often. The judge's patience thinned. Explain it to me, she said. Montana took over the narrative, explaining how they'd upgraded to a bigger house so the child could have her own room. He'd been laid off and living on unemployment benefits, but was starting his own business. Because money was tight, he'd asked Brianna to loan him his share of the first month's rent and deposit. My foster parents even offered to loan her the money, he added, so it wouldn't be a burden. Judy cut in. Too much information. Get to the point. He finally stated that Brianna paid the full first month's rent and deposit, totaling $2,350. He gave her only $200 back and claimed he owed her nothing more. Judge Judy's fingers tapped her calculator. You owe her $975 from that, she said flatly. And you moved in March, correct? Montana confirmed. When did you move out? May 21st. Judy didn't miss a beat. Then you owe her rent for May. Montana argued that he didn't owe for May because Brianna had agreed they could skip that month's payment if they left as soon as possible. He claimed a ridiculous household dispute had caused their falling out, something about $10 in missing change from a child's piggy bank. Brianna had accused him of taking it, which he found insulting. I provide for her, he said. I buy her things. I'd never take $10 in change. Judge Judy, unimpressed, cut straight to the core. What does that have to do with not paying your rent? The courtroom chuckled softly, but Judy wasn't amused. Montana insisted that after the argument, Brianna told him they didn't have to pay May's rent if they moved out right away. But Judy zeroed in on the facts. You lived there in May, correct? Yes. Then you owe rent for May. Piece by piece, the math came together. They'd owed for the security deposit in the first month, plus unpaid rent for May. Judy's calculator confirmed it. 975 plus 475 equaled 1,150. She summarized the numbers calmly, her tone final and unshakable. What could be easier? Montana made one last weak attempt to justify himself, but Judy raised her hand slightly, ending it. There was never an agreement to pay for childcare, she said firmly. You owe her for rent and deposit. So $440. Judgment for the plaintiff. The gavel struck sharply, echoing through the courtroom. Officer Bird's voice broke the silence. Parties are excused. You may step out. As the courtroom emptied, the weight of Judge Judy's ruling hung in the air. Brianna exhaled, half relieved, half exhausted. For her, it wasn't about revenge or even the money. It was about being believed. For Montana and his friend, it was a lesson in accountability, the kind that comes when good intentions mix with bad choices. The case was simple on paper, a disagreement about unpaid rent. But inside that small courtroom, it became a mirror of life's bigger struggles. Promises made and broken, blurred boundaries between friendship and responsibility, and the hard truth that fairness isn't always about feelings. It's about facts. And as Judge Judy's bench cleared for the next case, one truth remained the same. In her courtroom, excuses crumble fast, and justice always finds its way to the surface.